Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company. Welcome and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email us tmosso@the1916company.com. Your purchase and pricing email question line for buying this or any of our watches. Email us for pricing tmosso@the1916company.com. Today we are discussing a much-loved model made from 2004 through 2010. This is the Patek Philippe 5970. And the example you see here is the 5970G-001 in white gold. The last of the Lemania-based Patek Philippe Perpetual calendar chronographs. It's part of a famous line of Patek's most distinctive complications, dating back to the 1941 1518. Now the watch you see right here, of course, is the white gold model, and you can see back when this was made, Patek still rhodium plated its white gold, which is why this looks indistinguishable from platinum. A more modern white gold Patek would be a little bit darker than this, so just so you know what you're looking at. 40 millimeters is the size, bigger than a 3970, but smaller than a 5270. 40 millimeters is just right for many. 13.1 millimeters thick, and from lug tip to lug tip, 46.5 millimeters, with a rather broad, for the time, 21 millimeter spacing between the lugs. On my wrist, which is 16 centimeters in circumference, you can see the strap is still very stiff. It hasn't been broken in, so I have to pull it very tight. Keep that in mind when you're judging proportion here. So the lugs are nowhere near the edge of my wrist, but I am pulling that stiff strap very tightly. You can see that with a relatively flat profile and a sloped case flank, including a concave bezel, it will slide underneath the dress cuff. From over the top, I am pulling that strap very tight, and this is an angle that exaggerates the width of a watch, but you can still see on each side the lugs are well inboard of my wrist. So I could recommend this watch for a wrist as small as 14 centimeters circumference. Once again, mine is 16. Here we have large rectangular scale alligator leather, semi-gloss, dark brown, and as you can see, it is large, rectangular, and symmetrical scale alligator leather. All those things coming together to create a very high quality cut of the animal. Now you can see a monotone stitch, a sheer cut side with lacquering, and then on the bottom you can see calfskin, no crimping, no gouging, a brand new Patek Philippe factory strap with the company's latest pull-tab spring bars, so you can quickly pop the strap off the case without tools. We have Patek's white gold folding clasp here. What's fascinating is that you can see the clasp itself is not actually rhodium plated, so it's visibly a much warmer looking white gold than the rest of the timepiece itself. Calatrava Cross, and then internally there is a little friction fit system based on a radial spring, so it snaps together pretty securely for a friction fit clasp. This one's actually quite secure when closed. We have the Calatrava Cross as well on the crown. We have a case with stepped lugs, a concave bezel, a round case with traditional tumble home. We have vintage-inspired rectangular chronograph pushers, and then you can see that there's a little bit of a soft bevel that expands on the lugs as you get closer to the case. The dial is silver, and you can see it's what Patek describes as opaline, or a non-directional frosted metallic grain. It glows rather than exploding the way a sunburst would. We have blackened white gold indices and hands, and then we have outboard a tachymeter scale on the dial, which can be used with the chronograph to gauge the speed of an object, such as a race car over a kilometer. Perpetual calendar, of course, so we have the day date, the month, the moon phase, and then coaxial with the chronograph minutes. You've got the leap year right there. We've also got a 24-hour dial right next to the seconds subdial, so that's running seconds. So you can see, for example, if I have 11 set on the watch, I can look to my 24-hour indicator, and I can tell that is 11 a.m., not 11 p.m. Now, the hours between about 8 p.m. and 4 a.m., you don't want to try to use these little pusher adjusters to set the perpetual calendar. That's why that 24-hour display is there. So you have coaxial running seconds and 24-hour display, coaxial date and moon phase, coaxial chronograph minutes, instantaneous jumping with the leap year. And then, of course, you don't need to touch the perpetual calendar until the year 2100. The moon phase has an adjustment interval of once every 122 years. We have a very crisp column wheel action to this chronograph, and you can see a traditional capped Geneva column wheel with a lateral clutch, screw and case back, water resistant to 30 meters. And so we have A very highly modified Lemania 2310 here. This is Patek Philippe caliber CH2770, and yes, it's Lemania based, but highly elaborated. Power reserve in the Patek application goes from 48 to 60 hours. The mobile stud index regulator becomes Patek's free-sprung Gyromax style. We get a 6-position adjustment and an overcoil hairspring rather than the standard movement's flat hairspring. And 6-position is exhaustive. That is one more than a standard chronometer. The one feature it doesn't have is hacking seconds, but it has everything else going on. Column wheel feels excellent. The lateral clutch is traditionally beautiful. At Patek Philippe, the most advanced watchmakers are the ones who work on lateral clutches. The less experienced people work on vertical clutches. It just takes more skill to tune a lateral clutch. Now, the overcoil hairspring allows the watch to keep very consistent time in every physical position on the wrist or your dresser at night. It has a more centered mass than a flat hairspring. That's why it's there. The free-sprung regulator makes it easy to adjust the balance precisely and then makes it more shock tolerant. It's a 24 jewel movement. You can see it as Geneva hallmark, finished to a standard over and above any standard Lemania Abauche. So we have steel chronograph components, levers, horns, clutch, recentering hammers, and then brass bridges and plates. We have satination and beveling on the steel parts. We have Côte de Genève and beveling on the brass parts with black polished screw heads that featured chamfer slots and circumference. You can see there's a nice sharp interior angle on the chronograph bridge right there, and then another one at center. And we have engine turning on the base plate with satination on the wheels and beautiful metalwork on these tiny springs. Lovely. 2.5 hertz beat rate, so it is 18,000 vibrations per hour. A lovely watch and a rare one. Highly collectible and one of the best examples of the 5970. White gold, a timepiece you can wear every day on almost any occasion. Reach out to Team Mosso with the 1916 company for purchase and pricing details.